This is Troy from Troy Rike Sports Cards, and you're watching the Courtside Investor Podcast. You know, like I said, this job is a blessing. It's still more hours than people think, though. But I don't know. I just get it done. Especially people think they're like, oh, you got the camera out, you're about to get a good deal now. And I was like, no, I promise you're about to get a good deal.
Hey, what's up, Troy? Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's been a busy week. I was on the East Coast visiting a bunch of card shops. I just went to the Toronto Expo, which we were talking about before this. But yeah, I'm doing good.
Great, man. Great. You're running a full-time sports card business. You're an awesome content creator. You travel around the world for shows, as you mentioned, and you have one of the more recognizable faces in the hobby, as well as you have a towering 2-meter height. So, thanks for taking the time, man, to speak with us today.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's been good to connect with you, and I always enjoy talking cards, so I'm excited to get into it.
Great, man. Great. So I want to start back to the very beginning. So you came out of college and then in Wake Forest, where Chris Paul, Tim Duncan was. You played a bit of pro basketball, and then I remember you touched a bit on doing a short sales job where you didn't quite like, and then you went to sports cards, and then it's been sports cards ever since. So I'm just a bit curious. Was this the life that you envisioned for yourself? Initially, or was it you had something totally different in mind that you wanted to do?
No, I mean, definitely not at every step, but it kind of depends what step of my life you consider. Like, I think growing up, I always just, my family was in like tech in the Bay Area. I always just thought I was going to be, aspire at least to work at like a Google or something like that. That was kind of my hope and idea in college, and I kind of went through that process. Long story short, it didn't work out. And then basketball came out of nowhere. I didn't expect to do that. Obviously, I've touched upon that history a little bit. I mean, we'll see how much we get into that in here, but a lot of people know that story. And then when I was playing basketball, I wasn't really sure what I expected my future to be. Like, I never expected to play basketball for like 20 years. It just wasn't something that I, to be honest, kind of wanted. But sports cards, definitely, it never was like a plan. Even when I moved back, I think that's the thing people get confused about. When I moved back from the Philippines, they're like, oh, you moved back to do cards. And I was like, no, not at all. Like, I don't know. So I guess, yeah, that's a long way of saying no, I never expected to be doing this.
Right. Were there any regrets? I mean, sports cards, obviously, it looks like it's fun, but it's a heck of a lot of work, right? So
yeah.
Was there any regrets, taking an easier path like playing pro ball or maybe, working in an actual job?
No, I think that it's, once again, I'm probably not going to get any sympathy from everyone watching this, but it's definitely harder than I thought. And there are negatives compared to like a regular job. Like, something I've touched on is I never get to turn off. Like, there's, jobs are really tough, but a lot of times if you get home at 5, sometimes you can kind of just be done and at the very least not stress about it. I know that's not the reality of every job, but yeah, so that's a tough part. But man, like, I'm telling you, this past week I was traveling and getting to see all these amazing places and meet these amazing people and just filming these fun videos that I wanted to do. And I'm just thankful. I love my job so much. So I'll never, it's harder than people think, but I will never, as of now, I don't want to say never, but I don't currently think like, oh, I wish I was doing something else.
Oh, it's awesome. So, of course, you've already achieved a bunch, and I can understand it's a tough journey. So I'm starting out myself a full-time sports card since last year, also getting into this content thing. So a bit, I wouldn't say I'm following you more because I don't travel as much for shows, and obviously, I'm still learning the steps along the way. But if you had a chance to go back and fix something or change something, to make where you are a bit better today, what would it be?
I think that definitely the little things that I've just learned. I mean, I wish I could just give myself all that knowledge, right? Like, even just the intricacies of comps and stuff like that. Like, not every comp is created equal. Certain cards do better. Like, with Formula One and soccer, you need to be more patient. With football and stuff, it's liquid. You just got to move quick. Like, I wish I knew all that stuff when I started. But yeah, more specifically, I don't know, the little things. I think optimizing your processes, that's something I've always told. Like I'm a big eBay seller. So the scanner and label printer, it sounds stupid, but that really changed the whole game for me. And then otherwise, probably I would just tell myself to actually, believe it or not, take more risks. It's easy to say now with a little bit of, what do they call it? Survivorship bias. Like now that I've kind of done it, it's easy for me to say, oh, you should have just leveled up quicker. But I think, at least for me, I'm cautious giving that advice to someone who's maybe watching, but I'm a very risk averse person. So I think I scaled up a little too slowly. And I think knowing what I know now, I probably would have just went for it.
Right. Awesome advice, man. So even for my case, of course, I started out not as a full-time business, but more of just collecting, flipping and things like that on the side. And then when I started my business in early 2024 full-time, right? So I went on a bit of higher scale. So you're talking about I already jumped in on cards that's between $200 to $500 in the initial stages. And then within 6 months, I decided that, it needed to ramp up a bit faster and went up to between 500 to 1,000. Right now, I'm doing between $2,500 to $10,000 cards for every single flip. So it's I understand what you're trying to say. To take a bit of a bigger risk. It's a high reward, but definitely sometimes it does get scary. Making those, splashing those big amount of dollars on pieces of cardboard.
For sure, and I tell people, like, I think objectively, in general, it's kind of the move to ramp up. Like if you want to make big money, that's kind of the play. But I always tell people you have to be wired a certain way, and you also have to have your life set up a certain way. So first of all, in terms of being wired, like it's really hard. Like I said, I'm really risk averse, right? So if I take a loss, like if I bought a $30,000 card and I sold it for $20,000, I would think about that for like the rest of my life, not taking into account that even if I bought three $30,000 cards and sold them for like 37, you're still winning there big time. But I would be like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. So that's just me, right? I think that you have to be willing to live with some of that risk. And also I say you have to have your life set up in a certain way. Like, a lot of people reach out to me and they're like, oh, I want to do this full time, but they have a family or a mortgage or stuff like that. And it could be tough in some situations. Like you can't really afford to take a $15,000 loss. So that's just definitely something to keep in mind for people.
Yeah, you speak about that. Sometimes it's a bit attributed to our, so maybe in terms of past experiences like career, also maybe our upbringing as well. So, for my case, I've been in finance for about 20 years. So therefore, I'm naturally risk adverse as well, being very calculative every step of the way. But for your case, because, you had a short career in terms of, actual working experience before jumping into cars, but obviously doing cars for many years. But how does this risk adverse come in yourself? Is it something that, from your childhood, being a background where you tend to be a bit more careful with your spending and things like that?
Yeah, it's definitely from my childhood. I've always been like that. I think, honestly, it sounds simple, but I think it's just being a tall guy. Like I would always get a lot of attention, right? Like something I still think about now is like, even something as stupid as like my friends would like sneak into bars or sneak into clubs or whatever. And then I'd be like, you know what? All right, I'm just going to do it. And I'd chase after them and they'd be like, hey, you can't sneak in. Like I don't want to say recognizable, but being tall, you just get attention. So even as a kid, that's how it was. So I was always like, all right, you can't break the rules. You can't do any sneaky stuff. So I just, I guess that's tangentially related, but I think that's just how I've always been.
Got it. Well, I guess you're right about being recognizable. So your YouTube channel is touching close to 70K subs already, your main channel. So awesome. Congrats on that one. So
Thank you.
I've been a fan for your channels ever since one of the videos, which I'm going to touch on. But your channel, does quite a wide range of things. You do your vlogs, you do grading videos, you do how to can you videos. So big variety of videos. But what kind of videos do you enjoy doing the most?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think it's going to be the worst answer. I think some of my favorite videos are like the random ones I've done that haven't even gained that much traction. Like I did one with my girlfriend where we ripped a pack of cards and then we went to the city and watched an NBA game.
You went to Cleveland. You went to Cleveland, right? That one?
That was one of my favorite videos Or like I did a video. I love travel. Like I said, maybe people don't want to hear this as the answer, but it's the truth. Like I love traveling. I love that. Especially, do you know what it is? Is because it's just different, right? I think that's just being straight up with people. Like I always tell people, no matter what your job is, and you can probably relate to this doing cards, it's like, I love cards, but you keep doing the same thing. I don't want to say you're going to get tired of it, but the shine comes off a little bit. So I think when I do like a different kind of video, I really enjoyed that. But in terms of the actual card videos themselves, I like it. I like the Can You Profit videos because it's fun. There's a little bit of a story to them. I don't necessarily love putting them out all the time because I know that, like, for instance, the one like, oh, can you profit entering sports card breaks? Like, of course, like the answer is you can, but you're not going to 99.9% of the time. So I'm always like, oh man, I know I'm going to get blowback for this, but those are fun. Like, I mean, just being around with your buddies and just kind of, to be honest, blowing money on breaks it's fun, especially for a video.
Yeah, definitely. So sometimes people don't realize that, putting the videos, it may look easy, it may look fun, but it's actually a lot of work. Sometimes it's grind as well, right? Especially for yourself, having you produce so much content all these years. But I just want to ask as well. So has become, I wouldn't say, no, is famous the right word? I'm not really sure, but being recognizable, has it helped you with your business, or has it been, have a negative impact to your business?
I think overall, it's, first of all, yeah, definitely not famous. I get what you're trying to say though. Recognizable in the card world. But it's helped for sure. Like Whatnot, I always tell people all the time, I'm like, if you don't have an audience, Whatnot's going to be really tough. Like, setting up at the expo this weekend, like people wouldn't have come and sold to me if they didn't know who I was for the most part. But it also works against me in some ways. Like I was explaining this to my girlfriend the other day, like, when, especially people think they're like, oh, you got the camera out, you're about to get a good deal now. And I was like, no, I promise you're about to get a good deal. Cause I'm not about to like work you on, you know what I mean? I'm not going to work you on camera and then put the video out. Like that's just going to look bad. Even if I'm not working you, even if I just negotiate a little too hard. And also that's a big thing. I would say, so yeah, I get my marketing funnel, if you'll allow me, is huge because of my content. That helps the business a lot. But my negotiations suffer big time because I am very protective of my reputation. And also even just the fact of like, even when I'm just doing a small deal with someone, I'm like, man, like they watch the channel. This is going to be their only interaction with me. And this extra $5 is going to really that's going to hurt them. I don't want them to have a negative perception of me so I can make an extra $5. So the negotiations are hurt a little bit, but overall it makes it way easier to be full-time. That's for sure.
Right. Oh, amazing advice though. So I had a similar experience as well when I recently went for the Macau show. So I have a friend from Philippines. His name is Carlos. So he does set up a camera during the show, right, just to record everything. And of course, he edits a bunch and then just puts them on YouTube, just the best bits of the deals. Yeah. Okay. So I was setting up in the Macau show, and my wife actually recommended me to do something like that as well. But I was a bit concerned of exactly what you mentioned, right? Will they actually impact the negotiation process? So people will feel a bit uneasy, knowing there's a camera there. Whether or not it goes on YouTube or edited, or whether or not it actually appears, that's a different story. But the fact that the presence of a camera, watching the deal-making process happening, just, creates a bit of discomfort, and then, it doesn't really work in your favor. So I'm just a bit concerned about that. So do you have that kind of issues as well?
Yeah, I was about to say, it's you even put it better than I could have put it. I hate that. Like I hate that feeling when I feel like if I'm making someone feel uncomfortable, I hate doing that. And that's why probably my least favorite videos to do now are like the card show vlogs and stuff, especially if I'm set up and I have all the power on my side of the table. Oh my God, I hate that. It's really tough. I want everyone to have a good experience, and I'm used to being on camera, and other people are. But if it's someone, that's the thing. Like when I film my card show vlogs and I'm just walking around, I try to go to people who I know have their own content creation or have been on camera before. I'm like, this isn't going to bother them. But if I'm just set up at my table, some poor guy has his card collection, and I'll see it sometimes. Like I'll be like, oh, actually this one is comping a little lower. And then he'll like look at the camera. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't look it up in this week. I'm like, no, dude, it's all good. Like, I'm not trying to get you. This isn't a got you video. But that's something I think about big time, and that actually has impacted how much I film at shows, because I'm like, man, I just don't want to make people feel uncomfortable.
Yep, for sure, man, for sure. So I just want to touch on one of the earliest videos that that's when I started following your channel, was the trip, the collection buying trip that you went to Hawaii. So that was
Oh,
an
yeah.
interesting video. Was that one of your earlier trips to travel, far to buy a collection?
Yeah, it was. It was my first one ever. I think that was my first collection buyout ever too, which is
Oh, okay.
crazy. Like, and that's, I guess, why it went wrong, because I didn't really know what I was doing. Yeah, most people, like, I should have done like a $500 deal in like Oakland or somewhere close to me. I just went full into it. I'm like, especially because I think at that time, I don't know if I was still working. I don't know if it was before I was working or after, but I know my mindset at that point was like, I really want to make it. So I was like, all right, if this is this is an opportunity, I better jump on it. So that was like the first collection I ever bought.
Right. It was interesting because I follow Ty Wilson, Chasing Cardboard.
Yep.
So he does going around buying collections all the time, right? So you watch
Mhm.
those videos, it's kind of professionally done. He has that negotiation process, and breaking it down to the T. Of course, he has a team backing him, things like that.
Yeah.
So when I watch a video, obviously it's new, it's raw in a sense,
Yep.
everything is just unfiltered. So it's interesting. But I was a bit curious, having to need to fly all the way to Hawaii. I'm not sure how many hours was the
Mhm.
flight, but only be there for such a short period of time to comb through that collection. And of course, you spoke about it, you wish you had more time,
Mhm.
and you actually left a bunch of stuff behind as well. But
Yep.
why didn't you try to allocate more time, to go through the collection, since it's being your first time as well? And moreover, it's in Hawaii, which, you regretted, not having a
Yeah.
bit more time to just enjoy.
I think I think it was just because it was. I'm trying to think back to my mindset during that time, but I think it was just because it was more expensive, like almost to a fault. And that's something I've learned too. Like when I was first trying to create my own business, and maybe this will be good for people watching, I was just like, any expense I can cut, I will cut it no matter the cost. And I didn't think about the stuff I was giving up on, right? So, and I think in that situation, it was probably the right idea. But let's say, it cost me another $300 to stay an extra day in Hawaii. But if I find one more extra card, or I'm able to negotiate down a little bit more because I have a better idea of what's in the collection, that's money well spent. And that's something I've learned big time. Before, it was just like to a fault. I was like, I am going to spend the least amount of money possible on everything I do, no matter what it takes. So I think that's what I was thinking during the time. I was like, oh, you know what? I think I was like, I'll stay up all night. It doesn't matter. I'll save $300. I'll just stay up all night and go through everything. So yeah, if I was doing that trip now, I would give myself more time, or book a refundable flight, or all this kind of stuff you can do. But I think that's why, once again, a rookie mistake. I was new to it. I was just like, I need to keep the expenses down as low as possible, because I think that was the whole thing too. We looked into it, and it was like $800 to ship everything, maybe like $1,000, something crazy. I was like, oh, if I fly there, and I'll even save money by doing all this. So I think that was my mindset. I was like, I need to keep it as cheap as possible.
Good advice, man. Good advice. So of
Yeah.
course, since then, a lot of people realize that buying collections is kind of, have quite a good returns, right? Especially, if
Yep.
you come up with a good price. But one thing, people always have trouble is they tend to be over picky on some of the cars that's in there. They tend to over negotiate in terms of pricing, to the point where
Yep.
sometimes, you would irk the seller who's trying to sell the collection.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that, between trying to get a good deal for the entire lot, versus not upsetting the seller?
Yeah, I think it's similar to any negotiation, even at a card show. I always say just lead with respect, right? So I just give my offer. I don't try to lowball them. Like, if maybe you come in a little below, like if you're like, okay, 45K is the max I want to pay. Maybe I start at 40K, but I'm not going to offer them like 15 just cuz. But in that situation, once again, let's say I want to pay 45K. It happened in my Seattle video. I think he asked for like 90K originally, and I was like, oh, I'm not even close. But I led with respect. I'm like, hey, I totally get where you are. Here's the numbers. Here's what I'm seeing. This is kind of where I'd need to be. And you go from there. Like, you're definitely, in my experience, if the person is even somewhat reasonable, if you present it like that, they're not going to get mad. And also, once again, like with that same guy, there's been some situations where we haven't gotten a deal done. which is totally fine. That's the other thing. You also have to be in my shoes. I can't be like, what, are you serious, bro? Like, you just got to be respectful, give it your best shot. And it's tended to work out. That's the other thing too. Like, I know I'm fair in terms of what I pay, especially for the work I have to do. And when I show them what I'm seeing and kind of where I'm coming from, almost every time we've agreed on a deal. So I don't know, it's worked out.
Great advice, man. Great advice. So I want to touch on your business now, right? So you have a huge eBay store, you have Whatnot streams, you go to card shows, and then you produce a bunch of content as well. How do you find the time to manage all of these, man?
Oh, it's tough. It's tough. I've said it to a couple people now. I feel like I'm definitely tapped in terms of what I do. Like, I have no team, no employees, no cameraman. I have nothing. I have some editors that help me. If I didn't have editors, I'd be cooked. I couldn't do anything. So I have some freelance editors who work with me. That helps a lot. But yeah, it's a lot of work. I will say though, there's a lot of hours in the day. This is my full-time job, right? So if you really, like, I could review edits, scan cards. Like, if I really gave a dedicated 12 hours, you can get a lot done. I think the toughest thing for me though is just, and for anyone, is just mentally tracking all the different areas. Like, what do they say? A bunch of different pots are cooking for me. That's the toughest thing. But in terms of hours in the day, it's not that bad. Like I said, it's this job is a blessing. It's still more hours than people think though, but I don't know. I just get it done. Sorry, I'm rambling, but yeah.
No, it's good. It's good because it's a good perspective, because I come from 20 years of corporate as well. So I understand the feeling, because when you're going to a 9-to-5 job, for example, you kind of just want to go through the motions during the day. Right. So you got a list of tasks to do, just going through one at a time. And then when it reaches 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, it's time to pack up and go home. Whereas when you're running your own business, the hours fly by really quickly, but you don't feel the dread. Right. It's not like, I can't wait for it to be 6 o'clock to get home. Right. It just goes by, there's tons of things to do as well, but the hours just goes by so much quicker and so much easier as well.
For sure. You've done a great job. You've been saying what I've been trying to say a lot more eloquently than me. But yeah, even at the Toronto Card Show, I told my buddy that I was walking out. He's like, oh my God, it's 7. I was like, yeah, that flew by. Like, it didn't feel like work at all. We got there at like 8 and leave at 7, and it's just gone. And you don't have that feeling of just looking at the clock and being like, man, it's only 11:30. Oh my God. Like, it just flies by. And a good thing I've told other people too is, especially where I'm at now, I think there's an argument that I work more hours than a 9-to-5, but I've told people that I will work more hours if I can decide my own hours. So that's the biggest thing. It doesn't feel, there's very few times besides like the really menial tasks. Once in a while, I'm like, man, I don't want to keep scanning these cards, but it doesn't feel like a drag. So I think I'm able to put more hours into it than I would if it was just a 9-to-5 or something that's not growing my own business.
Right. Awesome, man. It's quite funny as well. So, like, normally for me, I start my day around like 6:37, have a bit of light breakfast, and then by like 11, I'll feel a bit hungry. I want to get lunch. But when I'm at a card show, right, so I'll still wake up a bit early to get myself set a card show, but I won't feel hungry throughout the day until I realize, hey, it's 4 o'clock. I haven't had lunch.
No, so my girlfriend gets mad at me.
She'll
message me. She'll be like, yeah, she's like, you haven't eaten. You got to eat. You didn't eat anything. I always do that every single time. I never have lunch at card shows. And I think part of that is because I'm not going to spend $30 on like a hot dog. But that's, you're right. You're just so locked in, and the adrenaline and stuff, that I don't even feel the hunger, just because I'm very determined and enjoying what I'm doing.
Right. So obviously, running the business, it has, like you mentioned, you enjoy it. There's a lot of things that you love doing, you don't mind doing, but surely there'll be one aspect of your business that, you no choice, you have to do it, but you totally dislike doing it. What would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that, to be honest, it's a bad answer, but circling back, I would say a little bit like filming in uncomfortable situations. Like, sometimes I do kind of dread it at card shows where I'm like, oh man, people are going to be uncomfortable, all this kind of stuff. So don't get me wrong. I love filming. I love content, but there's certain days or certain interactions where I'm like, I don't want to do this. So that's probably the first one that comes to mind. And then, I I think this is probably, I don't like, shipping actually isn't that bad, but like scanning and stuff and listing can sometimes become boring for me. Dealing with knuckleheads is probably that really grinds my gears. It's like I sell someone like a $4 eBay card and then they go, they return it because there's a surface dimple and they're like yelling at me in the eBay messages. I'm like, I do
Oh.
not want to deal with this. I hate this. That's probably the two that come to mind. That really bothers me. That's what people don't know. Like even though eBay's kind of like the mediary, you still deal with a lot of BS.
Uh, that's quite funny because when I first started out last year as well, I was doing a lot of eBay, trying
Yeah,
to go through the motions of trying to establish an eBay.
yeah,
So, and I encountered, many times what you just mentioned. And the funny thing was because I was doing cards, it was between, 100 to 500. I was just making like between $50 to $60, net
yeah,
per card. And you have these kind of guys that's making a big fuss. It's like, what am I doing, man? It's like, it's not worth it. So, of course, I talked to my wife about it and I said, look, why are you putting yourself through this? You can do a lot more. It's like, it's part of the process. It's part of the process. I try to
yeah.
convince myself, but after a while, I'm just going to go through, working with Finance Collect or working with Alt and let them deal with all the customer service after that.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an argument to that. And the other thing too, like it's funny that I mentioned it. It's always the $4 cards is where you have the most complaints too. It's funny that the $20,000 deals are always the easiest, least waste of time, least complaints. But if you sell a $4 card, it's tough. So that's something I've definitely learned. Like at the beginning, I was a huge advocate of like dollar boxing and kind of that low end flipping. And I think it's a little less viable today just because one, it's become more competitive and not to sound too self-important, but I genuinely think my videos kind of blew it up and then there was a lot of people doing it. So it's more competitive, but also because there's just so many knuckleheads that in a lot of cases, it makes it not worth it.
Ouch, ouch.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, we touch on you having multiple business streams and a lot going on in your life,
Mm.
basically. Have you ever considered to kind of like streamline a bunch of things just to, free up more time for yourself? So that you can do things that you enjoy more other than just being surrounded by cards on the whole day.
Yeah, it's funny. Once again, I never take my own advice. Like even now, I should be scaling up more aggressively. Like certain things like scanning and listing, like I should outsource that. It would result in more profit for the business if I was doing different things besides that. So, and like you said, even just for more self enjoyment, but it's just tough because I live in San Francisco and it's just really expensive here. It's hard to hire help. I'm just not in a good spot. But all that to say, I realize that I agree. And I'm in a point right now where I am planning and trying to make that happen at some point, deciding how big do I want to grow this? Do I want to really double down on cards and hire a full team, or do I want to lean into the content more? So there's moving pieces, but I'd agree that I need to streamline some of this even some more.
Cool, man. Cool. So people talk about the self, especially, running your own business, right? People talk about self-review, maybe like once a year, once every 6 months. How often do you do a self-review on your business?
Um, like every day in my own head, and I think one of my biggest, definitely with the business, maybe not as much, but one of my biggest strengths, I think when it comes to content is I self-review constantly. Like I have this little, I'll give away some of my secret sauce here. There's like a website where you can put your YouTube thumbnail and then write the title and it shows it to you what it looks like for people on their YouTube homepage. And I'll look at that constantly. I'll be like, okay, if I didn't know this guy, would I click on this video? So I'll go back and watch my old videos and be like, oh, is this good content or is this bad content? So on the content side, I do that a ton. Business wise, not as much as I should. I definitely am always thinking about how I can improve. But just recently, like, I'm doing my tax stuff and doing it more in detail. And I looked at the numbers. I'm like, wow, I actually learned a lot here. I should do this more often. This would benefit the business. But yeah, not a ton. And also the other thing, like I've never been like in business, I'm sure you talked about being in the corporate world, like you're supposed to do like SWOT analysis and chart. Like there's a lot of exercises you can do that help you grow your business or another business. And I've just never been the type of guy to formally do that. But that, yeah, I probably should do more of that.
Well, to be honest, even though being 20 years in corporate, I don't actually do any of that. So, but
Yeah.
what I what I do constantly look at is cash flow, right? So I'm
Mm,
always, because we have cards. I'm not sure about your case, but for my case, because I have cards on consignment, I have cards in
yeah.
transit coming from all parts of the different world. So it's a lot of tracking involved, right? Because it's a lot of money. You have you know. 20,000 sitting with all, for example, you have 15K that's in transit from China and things like so. It's a bunch of tracking, and you gotta kind of estimate how much cash you're gonna have in your bank at a certain point in time. So I'm always monitoring that consistently, almost on a daily basis. So that's the thing that keeps me up at night the most. Not so much on SWOT analysis and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing for me is because I don't do as much of the bigger stuff, I don't have to worry about cash flow as much. For instance, like I still do have cards that I'm into for like $1, right? And I don't worry about, tracking how long have I had this card or like depreciated inventory, like all this kind of stuff. Cause I'm like, whenever it sells, it'll hopefully sell for like $10. I'll be good. So, yeah, because but when you're dealing with high end cards and you need to spend 50K on a pretty often basis, then that becomes more important. But I that is the one good thing about how I do it is like cash flow has never really been a huge issue for me.
Cool, cool. But one question on shows though. So of course you travel to lots of shows, and there is expense as you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Flights and
Mm.
hotel and things like that. So do you, before you actually decide to go on a show, do you actually have something mentally prepare yourself? Like, look, I gotta do this much of sales in order for me to justify the cost, or is this the market not right that I won't able to achieve this much, so therefore I'm not going to that show? Do you have that kind of thought process before you actually choose the show that you want to go to?
Yeah, a little bit, especially at the beginning. I try to keep things as cheap as possible, but I think I was always like keeping it so cheap that I didn't even have to do the analysis. Like it'd be like, I'm not spending more. I'd go to Dallas and I'm like, I'm keeping this whole trip under $300, including hotels and flights and stuff. And I got lucky because I had like, I've always found the little ways to do it. Like I had this like Frontier pass where my flights with bags and everything were like $100 round trip.
Nice.
And then I had like Hilton friends and family. So I was staying across the street from Dallas for $60 a night. So I was like, okay, 160 and then Ubers and stuff. We can do this under 300. So I never like put a specific sales number on it. Once again, this is
Mhm.
what I'm going back to. I've never been, and this is probably, if I'm giving advice to people, you should do this stuff formally, but I've never been the type in general to like write it out. Be like, okay, if I do 15,000 in sales, then I have to and I depreciate blah, 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 blah. I would just kind of do that in my head. I would be like, all right, I'm spending $300 to go to Dallas. I know I can make 500 flipping one card easy, and then the rest will just be gravy. That's kind of how I would look at it.
Great advice. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the reason why I asked is because I got a couple of friends. I recently went to the Macau show, and I did advocate to a bunch of Malaysian friends to make the trip because it's not that expensive to go to Macau
Yeah.
from Malaysia. It's only a 4 hour flight. But a lot of them, are saying, look, I'm doing the cost numbers in my head. It's not going to be worth it. I'm not gonna be able to sell enough stuff to justify the trip and things like that. So, to me, it's yeah. I guess recovering some costs is important, but I guess you're missing the point of trying to get yourself exposed, trying to get, get a feel of a show, and maybe even perhaps do even better than you would imagine yourself doing.
Yeah. I was actually just talking to a friend about that. I was saying, like, a lot of people are afraid to go to these bigger shows because they're like, oh, I'm not going to make money or whatever. But I'm like, man, the opportunities you'll unlock are crazy from that, especially I'll say if you're, you know, I think of that more though as an attendee though, because you're only let's say you spend let's call it $1,000, right? You spend $1,000, okay, bad show, you make $800, like okay, you'll be fine. I think that's worth it. That's worth it to get your name out there, to connect with people, to do all that stuff. I do though. I think there's a lot of people, especially at these big shows, who are setting up and paying to set up as vendors, and they'll spend like 10 grand or something crazy. And I'm like, that math just does not add up to me. And I think people need to be wary of that. Or even as a flipper attendee, if you're doing it every weekend, I think the math adds up less than people think. But there's definitely something to be said for, I don't know if loss leader is the right word, but just, being willing to take a loss just to kind of get your foot in the door, to learn, to connect with people. And then there'll be a lot of profits and money that comes in that's not like directly attributed to that trip. But obviously a big benefit for me, and why I maybe can't relate the most, is I always thought about the content side was always like the cheat code. That's how I looked at it. I was like, even when I first started out and I wasn't making that much, I was like, okay, maybe this Dallas ends up being break even, but then I get a video out of it. That's fine. I'll do it. So that definitely helped me in the beginning.
Great advice, man. So I was just talking to my wife about this as well after we came back from the Macau show. It was for me, because I do predominantly online, right? So I have a lot of cards that's currently on consignment with alt, etc. So having to set up at a show, it's quite a big logistical challenge for me, because I got to actually bring all the physical cards back home. So and when the cards are with me, they're not on sale on the internet. So that's opportunity cost as well. So I had to balance the idea that, look, I want to bring these cards and try to sell at the show and make some money, and obviously cover the cost as well as the opportunity cost of not selling online. But during the show itself, to what you mentioned, I made so many connections. I talked to people who watch my channel. I met new people who I want to get them on my channel, on this podcast, for example, and getting your name out there, getting your brand out. It just feels so much more invaluable being present at a show, as opposed to just, finding the right balance between making some money to cover to justify your costs. So I definitely hear what you're saying.
100%. And it sounds so corny. Like, I hate it when content creators talk about, you got to build your brand, bro. But it's true. Like, if you are, even if you're just a vendor or whatever, like, you still have a brand. Like, people need to recognize you, or, know like, oh, this guy in Malaysia is a big Dirk Nowitzki collector. So I know when I find a Dirk card, or he knows someone who's a Dirk Nowitzki, like, you have to have a presence out there, and that's your brand, and that's going to make a big difference to your business.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to touch on another topic. I get asked quite a lot about collection consolidation, right? So one of the recent videos you did was you showed your own personal collection, your 100,000 collection, and you had a very nice set of messy rookies, right? A bunch of good selections, as well as the Mega Cracks 8.5 BGS. So the question is, are you on the side that you would rather have a nice variety, or would you consolidate into one huge card? So let's say we use the Messi as an example, right?
Yeah.
Would you have a bunch? I think here like 4 or 5 different Messi rookies of different grades. Would you have like multiples, or would you like put them all together and have one real big Messi and high grade, for example?
I think it depends how you look at it. Like, for me personally, so I've also, like I said, I think I've actually done a pretty good job. Like, mine is pretty condensed down. Like, I think a lot of people just have these huge collections in PCs, and I don't think that's the move. But, even still, like, I got a good amount of stuff, because I'm, once again, risk averse. Like, if I bought an $100,000 card and it went down to 80,000, I'd be like, oh, you're the biggest idiot ever. And also because I just like having not a bunch, but a good amount of different cards. Like, if I was forced to just collect and hold one card, I don't think that'd be very fun for me. But with that being said, if there was a hypothetical where some genie was like, all right, you have to, it's me versus you, right? Whose collection is going to be worth more in 10 years? And whoever doesn't get it, like, you go to jail or you die or something bad like that. I would buy one card, one really, really nice card, and just go for it. So I guess all that to say, if I'm looking at it strictly financially, I probably would do better with just one $100,000 card versus all the stuff I have. But it wouldn't be as fun. And I do think that there is more risk there, though. Just having one, diversification, finance, right? Like, that's the downside of it. But if you want the big upside in a $100,000 card, like, I have thought about it. It's funny you brought that up. Like, I want to get a really expensive soccer card, because I think I would have the biggest upside there.
Right. Yes, I kind of agree with you as well on this. The one question that I commonly get as well, right? So people tend to ask me that, do you, for example, have your PC? You have a PC and you have your inventory, right? The stuff that you sell. So a lot of them said, look, okay, whatever is in my PC, I'm not going to sell them. I'm not going to touch them. They're in there for life. And then I'm just going to build that PC, and the other stuff, I'm just going to flip and buy and sell. Okay. But for me, from my side, I don't actually have a segregation. Yes, there are cards that I like more. There are cards that I want to hold a bit longer. But normally everything, if it's for the right price, everything's for sale. Okay. What about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like I've picked up some really nice messy stuff lately, and almost all of it is at least listed up on eBay or I bring it to shows because I'm like, yeah, for the right price, I think that's in general the smartest way to do it. Like just keep it. If you're looking at it financially, keep it moving. Because that's the other thing I've thought about too. Like if you're looking at it purely financially, you know, I look back at messy cards I could have bought or I did hold in 2022, and they were worth 2K and now they're worth 4K. And it's like, oh man, I should have held on to that. But realistically, I guarantee I've turned that 2K flipping bigger than 4K, you know? So yeah, I don't, there's certain cards that I hold on to, like the messy rookies have personal significance to me. So I hold on to them. The Messi blue and the Ronaldo red I have, those hold personal significance to me. Those are kind of like my grails, so I just hold on to them. But looking at it as a businessman, like my inventory, I don't know. I just like my PC stuff is cheaper, separate stuff. You know what I mean? Like John Collins stuff that no one wants anyway. So I can just hold on to that. But yeah, there's some messy cards I'm currently holding that I consider like semi PC, but they're still available because I think it just makes a lot of sense to do it that way. Because then you can be more firm too. That's the other thing. Like I'm in no rush to sell those, so I'll wait for the right offer to come along. And if it doesn't come along, I believe in that card long term, and also I'm fine just to hold on to it.
Yeah, that's I guess that's the right way of putting it. A lot of people just have this perception that look, once in my PC, it's untouchable, right? I won't
Yeah.
sell it for any price, which I find that unrealistic.
Yeah, I don't think that's unless it's. I always tell people. I mean, at the very least, I was like, if you can find that card again, then it 100% should be for sale because you can just buy it back. I think if you have there's an argument to be, well, I guess even, if you have a Kobe logo, man, like that, it showed that if the right price comes along, you can move it. Cause I'm sure there's a lot of people who sold these Kobe logo mans and stuff who had that mindset of, oh, I'm never going to sell it. But then they got a crazy offer and it's like, well, I guess it is for sale.
Yeah, for sure, man. So,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say money talks, but money keeps things moving.
Yeah. Yeah. No, almost everything. I mean, it's true. I mean, I guess if we just want to be super like negative about it, even my John Collins cards, like my 101, I say, oh, I would never sell that. I would never sell that. If someone offered me like something crazy, I don't know why it would be worth that much, but if someone's like, I'll give you 50K, like I'd probably sell it. Maybe that's not what people want to hear, but like I would just buy the second best John Collins card. And I think I would probably rather have that in 50K versus just the one card, calling it what it is.
Well, if let's say if John Collins actually knocked on your door, say, hey, I want the best card available for me,
Yeah.
and you have it, I want it. What's your price?
Yeah.
I guess you'll be.
Well,
a
that'd
bit
be
stoked on
different because
that, so-
honestly, if he ever just messaged me and was like, I just want the card, I would just send it to him. You know what I mean? Because it's his card, and I think for him to have it would be pretty sweet. But yeah, if someone random really wanted it for whatever reason, of course everything has a price, unfortunately. Which I never thought of it that way. But I guess if we're being realistic about ourselves as humans, almost everyone probably has a price for every single card they own.
For sure, man, for sure. All right. So last question is this. We're coming to the end of 2025. So obviously from the start of the year, you probably set some goals for yourself. So do you mind sharing, what were some of those goals and whether or not have you achieved or not achieved these goals?
Yeah, I think once again, kind of similar to what I said earlier, I've never been the type of person, you probably should, right? Giving people advice, you should like write out your goals and stuff like that. I've never been that type of person, but I definitely did have a goal in my head of I want to grow the YouTube as much as I can and put out good content that I'm proud of. It was kind of just like a mindset shift going into this year. I was like, I'm going to be very deliberate with the videos I put out when it comes to planning and just having them be good content. And I think I definitely have done a good job of that. And I've seen success and kind of the fruits of my labor there. So I'm proud of that. Card wise, same thing. That's just how I'm wired, right? Like I didn't, a better way to live your life probably would be to write down like, I want 70,000 YouTube subscribers this year and I want to scale up to 250K in revenue. But that's not how I did it. I said, I want to be deliberate with the videos I make and I want to take more risks in the card world. And I think I've done both of those things. And even though it wasn't like a specific goal that was written out, I think I've definitely had success and achieved the mindset I wanted to have.
That's great advice, man. I mean, just to add on to that, I tell people that when you want to buy cards, to buy and flip cards, you have to be very intentional with whenever you buy a certain card. Like you just don't go with like gut feel. Oh, I think the card looks nice. I think it can sell for more and things like that. So you have to be more intentional. You have to really put more focus and put more thought into whatever you're doing in order to get the results that you want. So like in
100.
your case, being very deliberate with producing your content, kind of figure out what kind of outcome you want. So you put your effort and put your focus onto it.
100%. Yeah, I want to be, that's a great point. I want to be clear too, because I've said, like, for instance, with Dallas, right? I don't do a spreadsheet of my expenses, but I still do that calculation in my head, and I think about that consciously. You have to do that. So I fly by the seat of my pants in the sense that I don't write things out or set specific numbers, but I am always running these calculations in my head of what do I need to do, what's worth it. And more to your point, like you said, I always tell people when you buy a card, you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. Is this a raw card that's you're going to grade? Is it a 10? There was a PSA 9 comp a long time ago, but you think, oh, this is a PSA 10 now? I can probably get 5x what that PSA 9 was. Or this is a long-term hold because I believe in Messi's market or something like that. Exactly like you said, you have to be intentional. If you want to do this as a business or even a side hustle, you can't just buy a card and be like, all right, we'll see. Like that just doesn't work. That just doesn't work.
Cool, man. Awesome. This been great, man, Troy. I appreciate the time that you spent talking about this. So for viewers of you, for the audience here, we're in a time where sports car prices are, I wouldn't say they're extremely hot, but they are, gaining a lot of interest at the moment. Is there any, advice or word of caution for people, who are just getting into the space at this point in time?
Yeah, I think the main thing would be I fell into this trap before. People fell into this trap before. Prior performance does not necessarily mean future success. Like in 2021, I was like, oh, Kevin Durant Topps Chrome has went up 60% over the last year. I'm going to buy it now so I can make another 60%. That is not how it works. So you can't have that mindset. If you think that, once again, like I said, I keep using the same example, but if you believe in Messi long term, I don't necessarily think right now for certain cards is a terrible time to buy, but definitely don't just look at the chart and be like, okay, it's just going to go like this. Like, know that if you buy right here, it might go down and then hopefully it goes back up again, but it's definitely not just going to go straight like this. So I think, and then the generic advice as well, just be careful. Don't overextend yourself. And yeah, like I said, don't assume things are just going to keep going up forever, because I know for a fact they won't. There will be a pullback. You might still do better over the long term, but there will be a pullback at some point here.
Great advice, man. All right, it's been great, Troy. Thank you so much for joining this podcast. Appreciate the time once again from you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was fun. We'll have to do it again, and I hope to see you at a show in Asia soon. I got to come out there.
Oh, yes, you definitely should, man. You should. People have been asking me to go to the US, but I think I would like people to come to Asia and really look at, the completely different picture of what most people see on YouTube on the US shows.
Yeah, I'm going to come out soon. I look forward to it.
Awesome, man. All right. So that's it for this one. Thanks again, Troy, for coming on the podcast. You're watching the Courtside Investor Podcast, and do subscribe for this channel, and talk again soon. Thanks.